Everybody,
Oh, we're on?
Facebook
Hey!
and YouTube.
Gee, that's pretty good.
I think we got it. Cool. So I'll just bring up the comments, top chat.
Technology.
All messages
Amazing.
visible. Cool. I know. We'll wait for a few of you to pop on before we start answering questions. I think this needs to go down just a tad. That's better.
That cuts my head
Oh, your head's fine.
off. Right.
So I'm just going to make sure I've got the iPad here so I can read your questions properly because it's too small on the actual screen. So there we are.
This is amazing.
Are you still
I'm
after all the live videos we've done?
Yeah, I
You're
know.
still
But,
amazed with it.
you know, like when I started off in with camels, I mean, the internet was pretty fresh.
Yeah, I'm just.
And yeah, it's amazing what's happening now.
Yep.
Wait for holograms. God, you could have us in your lounge room. That's a scary thought.
Let us know where you're joining us, where you're watching us from, so we can say hi, give you a shout out. We'll wait for a few of you to pop on before we officially start, so we can have a bit of a chit chat. I'll turn this right down because I can
get your
still
questions ready.
Yes.
All right.
Bring on your camel training questions.
Absolutely.
We've got our answer hat on.
Wish I did have a hat. That sun's a bit bright.
Oh, but like you said before, it's only in one eye.
Oh, yeah. We had to shift things around at the last minute, of course.
Hi, everyone who's joining. Let us know where you're watching us from. We'll start soon and start taking questions, but we wanted to just wait for a few of you to pop on. So let us know where you're from, where you're watching us from. And if you have camels, let us know about your camels, how many you have, their names, if they've got names. Most people name their camels. So
I mean, actually, also, we could also kick off with is anyone, like you've got camels, but you haven't actually done any training with them, and you just don't quite know where to start. Okay, so perhaps, you know, if anyone's in that boat, or if you've actually started to do some stuff with your camels, but you're a bit stuck and wondering where to go next. You might also have even gone through our training course and, you know, want to clarify something.
Yep.
So, you know, it's open slather.
Yep. We're going to give you everything we've got today in a short amount of time that we've got here. But as you all know, or maybe you don't know, but if you do know, don't know, Virtual Camel School, our Virtual Camel School is enrollments are closing midnight in Australia, which is 9 a.m. Eastern time in the United States. So if you're unsure about how that time converts, just, you know, do the time convert on Google. It's pretty easy to figure out. Now, we're on YouTube and Facebook at the moment, so I want to make sure I'm not missing any questions on YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube and you have a question, put a Q in front of your question so we know that it's a question and not a statement or a hi or something.
Makes sense.
So, yeah, I know, it's just organised. So while we wait for a few of you to pop on, we are standing in our camel training yards, and I know some of you who are watching have been in these training yards. We've got our big camels in the back here. They're eating some lucerne at the moment, and yeah, we're looking forward to answering your camel training questions.
Absolutely.
Well, did you want to start, Russell, with the type of training that we do, just to get things warmed up a bit?
Yeah, okay. Well, which way do you want to go with that? We operate with a method that, look, it's been developed over a large number of years. I wouldn't say most. A good proportion of my knowledge has come from my mentor, Phil G, when I was training with him, but then I've also been with other cameliers throughout Australia, and also learnt from other camel cultures from around the world, different places. Plus also some of my own ideas as well, integrating, you know, sort of the connection that the Aboriginal people, because I spent many, many years living with Aboriginal people up in Arnhem Land and over in the Kimberley, and out in the desert as well, in the Gibson Desert. And what they've taught me about connection of, you know, the plants, the animals, how we're all connected, and you know, they just had an amazing way of knowing that sort of connection. So
and that's why we call it. We recently we changed our name from Australian Camels to Camel Connection, because it is like connection is it's not just about doing something. Like,
No.
you know, connection involves the heart. Connection involves, you know, thinking strategically about how you want to approach something. So that's where the camel connection comes into play, is where we're seeking connection with the camel, and we're asking for that in return. So we're asking for their respect, we're asking for their trust, we're asking for their friendship, and ultimately their love. You know, they are a herd animal, and they definitely prefer to be with their own kind, and they form cliques, and they form little friendships and relationships, and they have you know, so and so over there who's a bully, and don't go near him, you know, and then there's Aunt Maggie over there, and she's really helpful when something's gone wrong, you know, like this is how the herd environment works. And we know this from witnessing camels in their natural environment out in the Australian desert, and we know this from obviously, you know, witnessing our own herd. Like within our herd of 12 camels, which isn't a lot of camels, we have 3 different herds. You know,
Definitely, there's little cliques.
There's little cliques all in this 12. So, you know, you can just imagine that, you know, in a bigger herd, how incredible that could be.
And that actually affects the way how we handle and manage the camels.
Yes.
All right, so, you know, we want to shift the camels from one paddock to another, for example. We have to keep that in mind, you know, these little cliques and the individuals as well, at the same time, so that, you know, the herd management, if you like, is smooth. It's not manic in any shape, way or form.
And that's how they deal with each other, in a smooth, sort of calm manner, unless there's an emergency and everyone has to run all of a sudden. But, you know, mostly, like, you can just even see them here. They're just, I mean, even though they're eating, but this is their natural state of being. They're cool, calm and collected, and I suppose why a lot of people say they're so majestic, because I think, you know, with us in our fast-paced life, is sometimes we can't even understand or comprehend and how cruisy and chilled out the camels are, because we're so busy with life. So yeah, having them, this is just their natural state of being, you know.
Yeah.
They sit down, stand up.
Yeah, and I must admit, I mean, you know, what I've experienced as well, and what I know of, is that each country and each culture is quite different in their way how they manage and can see the camel as well. I mean, for example, like, you know, the Arabic language, for example, is based around the camel, and that's how much love and respect the Arabic people actually have for the camel and see the camel's value. You know, India, I mean, the camel is in Rajasthan the symbol of love, from my understanding, and so, you know, there's that very strong bonded connection that they have, that they've had for thousands of years. You know, whereas in Australia, really, I mean, where we've had the what we term the Afghans that have come over with camels, and that was only really in the 1860s when all this sort of thing happened. So we're fairly new to the camel world here in Australia, as far as a Western country goes. Yes, we do have the largest wild or feral herd in the world, which is, I don't know if that's a massive achievement, but it's happened.
It's not really. It was one of those accident things.
So we're actually in a very beautiful position, of course, in Australia, with that that we can see camels who have learnt from each other. You know, they were domesticated originally before being released, so they'd still have some of those domestic behaviours that would have been passed down the generations, I should imagine. But generally speaking, they are feral camels, and so, you know, we can see them in the wild and see how they react with each other, and it's a beautiful thing to actually watch.
Great. Well, that's a great introduction.
Did you like that?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, look, I'm very passionate about the history of, you know, the different cultures and camels.
It is interesting,
and
that's for
you know,
sure.
people have stories, and this is the beautiful part about this. I mean, you know, we've got our story, you've got your story, or you're creating your story now.
Yes.
And you know, if we can help you with your story, with your dreams, if you like, or your stories, and with what we know, then yeah, Yeah, well, we'll do it. You know, that's the thing.
Great. If you're just joining us, do let us know where you're watching us from. We do have our first question and we're going to answer it.
Okay, let's go for it.
Okay.
What is it?
Is trust-based camel training, does it work for every camel?
It will work for every camel.
Yes.
That's the short answer. The long answer is some camels switch onto it really quickly.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think I want to just butt in here because
did.
I think, what? You did. Because this is where a lot of camel owners get confused. They will try a training method and they'll try it once or twice and then they'll go, it doesn't work because it didn't work for my camel. Well, there's so many things that determine that doesn't work thing. Like, I mean, and I think we're going to go into that. It does depend on the camel's personality. Trust-based camel training works for every camel because we work at a foundation level. We don't start up here and expect every camel to meet us up there. We start down here and expect every camel, which we're not expecting much of them because we're only encouraging their natural ways of being, you know, like sitting and standing, and that's the initial training. So yeah,
Initial training.
Yeah, so it's not like, that's where a lot of camel owners get confused. It's like, oh, well, you know, Tara and Russell say this works for every camel, but it didn't work for my camel. Well, and this happened to a client in ours in the United States. And she went through our online course and she tried everything that we did in our online course, which is exactly why we're doing the virtual camel school where we're doing live videos in conjunction with the pre-record, so we can just elaborate things for you. And then she came along to one of our courses we did in the States, and luckily she didn't give up. She believes so much in this heart-centered approach that she just didn't give up on the trust-based training. And so she came along and she's like, this is like magic. Like, you know, it was the smallest little tweak that she had to make to match the personality of her camel that made all the difference. So that's why, and you know, we've worked with Bactrian camels, we've worked with dromedary camels, we've worked, you know, as you know, we've worked with camels all over the world as well. And we've got a lot more to come. So like, we're always learning and we're never gonna stop learning. But yeah, just that point of that it does work for every camel.
Totally.
But with different personalities, you need to tweak it.
Totally. I mean, take for example, I mean, you can see in the back, he's just put his head in the trough there.
You can see a lot of bums.
Jack, okay? So he's got his head in the trough. He'll probably pull it up pretty soon. There he is. Yeah, pulled his head up. Okay, now Jack, I use him as an example for a lot of things. When I first got Jack...
That's Jack there with his bum, actually. That's
Tails.
Tails.
Hang on. Oh, yeah, sorry. Jack's got the bum. Jack's got the bum.
He's got the big bum.
Jack's got the bum. Okay, right. He's got the big bum. So Jack, I liked him. Okay, well, number one, I liked him, and so I was prepared to go through whatever it was with him to get the results eventually, and to actually discover who he was. Who he was quite a scared camel. You know, but I didn't see that at first. I just thought he was being, you know, resistant and cantankerous, not cantankerous, but certainly resistant.
Yeah,
and you know, it actually, I mean, you know, we got things done and, you know, we ended up getting a result, but it actually took 2 years before he actually said, oh, you know, this is okay. All right. And the resistance disappeared. Okay. And but I stuck at it with that consistency and persistency, and as Phil used to tell me, quiet, gentle persistence will always win the day. And he was totally right. And one thing I really want to say here, with you know, my mentor, Phil, who I'm passing, you know, a lot of that information on now, as I already explained, a lot of the other information as well. But Phil never taught me anything that wasn't correct. Everything that he taught me was absolutely 100% spot on, and I greatly appreciate that, and you know, I honour that, and you know, and it was with Jack.
And whether you had discovered that, like, you know, like sometimes, you know, when you do a training on whatever subject, could be camels, it could be or whatever,
Yeah.
and then sometimes you're like, yeah, and you start to question, like, I don't think that this person could be right about X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
But, you know, months down the track, a year or
Oh,
two, and you're
proves
like,
itself
oh my
enormously.
God, they were totally right.
Yeah,
And
totally.
it's not because they're better or anything. It's just that, you know, like for us, we're here to share the love that we have of camel training and handling from that heart-centered approach. So that means the world to us, you know. So this is like what we live and breathe for, you know. So like that's the difference. It's like, you know, if you go to a jewelry maker, they live and breathe jewelry, so they're going to make the best product for you. And it's, you know, and that is why we gave up a lot of our other camel activities. Like we're giving up our safaris this year, and we've given up the camel hire and all this sort of stuff. Like this is because this is our focus now, you know, like we are so passionate about this and we're so interested in helping you more, that we realized in order for us to have really good focus on this, that yeah, we need to let go of some of those things, take the risk and jump in with you.
And to add to that, I mean, you know, this is a bit of a blow your nose sort of arrangement.
Blow your nose.
Oh.
And also, just if you have any questions, like if you'd like to ask a question, put a Q and then ask your question. If you don't have a question, do let us know the most challenging thing that you find working with camels.
Absolutely.
And
so,
then you can blow your nose.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, sort of what I really wanted to do many years ago, when I first met Tara and I was explaining to her, you know, my intentions, my overall intentions was to systemize the training process so that it could reach a lot of people, which we're doing right now, okay? And it's not the only training method. All right, let's get this one clear. It's not the only training method, but for myself, I found it worked. And for you, I found it worked.
For us, it's the only training method.
And it worked in such a way that I was comfortable with it. I could see the results. I could understand the process, and that's why we're sharing this now with you.
And we've got some students who do our course and are totally committed all the way with the trust-based training. And then we've got some other students who've done our course and really loved it, but then, you know, they've gone to other sources as well, and just to test the waters and see what else they can learn.
It's fine.
All of it's totally fun. We all do it. You know, you read one book on one subject, you read another book on the same subject. Like it's just, it's the nature of the beast.
Yeah. Yeah, the interesting part is that a lot of those people have always come back.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, this worked.
Well, you know, I think, anyway, you know, if you're here and you're listening to us, you know, you've probably watched some of our videos, listened to our podcasts, or read our blogs. You know, we're all about that heart-centered approach. And you know, so it's not a hard thing to do, is to go for this heart-centered approach to camel training.
No, that's right.
But that's why it works, because it has that heart. Because with a heart-centered approach, you have a natural curiosity, right? So you're gonna want to do the best thing for the animal. So you're gonna ask the right questions. You're gonna you know, inquire further with the camel and, you know, its personality and its way of thinking, and that's the difference.
I want to ask a question here of you, okay? And to answer honestly, do you find yourself at times where you've got a level of fear to work with your camel? Okay.
I do.
Yeah.
Some camels, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Answer that question if you can, if anyone's willing to answer that question, and then we can work out, okay, well, what is it that you're fearful of? Okay. Is it a fearful of being kicked? Is it a fear of, you know, being bitten? Is it a fear that, you know, these animals do grow big? And because one thing that we really want to emphasize within the training process, and this is where, you know, we've systemized it in such a way, the safety factor is really important.
Because it's really normal and natural to have that fear. And in fact, we encourage you to keep that natural fear when working with camels. Like it's a slight amount, obviously, the more you work with them, you know, the less and less that fear is. But there's some camels that I'm always watching my back, like because I don't understand them yet. Like, this is the thing, like, yes, trust-based training works for every camel, but every camel has a different personality, like us humans. So some take a little bit longer to figure out, or Russell might figure out a camel and I'm just like, I'm not getting this camel, because it's like building friendships. It's like some friends you will really get and love and you'll click straight away, and other friends are like, yeah, I don't really understand you, you know, and that's That's the difference with this type of training.
Yeah. Well, let's take the example of Taggles there.
Oh, which one's Taggles?
Taggles
He's
is over
way
there.
at the back.
He's down the back right. Okay.
We know who Taggles is.
I
Taggles!
went and checked first. Yeah. Yeah, Taggles. Tara didn't understand Taggles at all.
Oh my God.
She didn't understand him at all.
I called him. No, I shouldn't say
No.
that. I won't say that.
No, don't. Yeah, did not understand him, and I just loved the guy. You know, like
And I couldn't understand why Russell had this love for him.
He's just an amazing animal, and you know, but it took a little bit of time for Tara to turn over. Okay, it's not just the camel turning over; it's also the person turning over sometimes, because you're looking at a two-way relationship here.
It's so true.
All right, now in the process of talking about this heart-centered training, you know, I'm looking at two onions. Okay, and I do explain this, where you've got, you know, yourself, you're an onion, and the camel's an onion, all right, and you've got levels of fear, layers, if you like, that need to be removed. And once you've removed those layers, then all you've got is the heart of the onion. There's nothing left. Okay, so, you know, Tara's fear of Taggles actually translated into, I don't like that camel because he's a dick.
Well, I don't like that camel because I fear him.
But did you know that was fear? At the time?
No, I did not. No, I thought it was just that he was...
He was a dick. But he wasn't.
And now he's one of my best camels. Like when I think about Taggles, my heart goes pitter-patter, and I'm just like, oh, he's the love of my life, you know, this camel. And you know, this is the interesting thing with challenging camels, right? Often there hasn't been a circumstance that I'm aware of yet where the most challenging camels end up being the best camels for you and your personality match. Like, you know, yeah, like there's Taggles, like totally won my heart. He's like, and me and him have the closest relationship because I think also camels definitely they're a bit like dogs, like they have their one owner thing happening. That's what I've noticed coming from the horse world and, you know, having dogs and stuff like that. I've noticed that camels have this whole one ownership thing, right? They're like, oh, well, you know, I like that person. And so Taggles took a while to like me, probably more than Russell now. Don't tell Russell that. And but we just have this amazing relationship where we're just like head over heels for each other. And yeah, there's still, you know, he still does silly things, and I'm like, oh, Taggles, he's just being silly, but I'm so willing to work with him now. So
it's interesting that comes up because we've got another camel which isn't here in the background, but she is quite dominant. She's the matriarch, if you like, of the herd.
She's very, very sweet, like super sweet. Like she'll be all over your face and your eyes are melting. You're like, oh, she's so sweet. But then you go to walk away and she follows you. And then she runs, and this is her dominant behavior. So we're starting to figure her out. Like,
oh, I've worked her out. I worked her out a long time ago.
Yeah, so Russell quicker than me.
Love her. She's great.
And I'm just like, oh, patience, Tara, patience.
Yeah.
Trevor says that yes, understanding sounds they make and mannerism and learning patience. Every camel's sound means something different for every camel, generally speaking. We thought about doing this YouTube video once about camel sounds and their mannerism. We're like, this is a really hard one because some camels will like groan, but that could mean completely different to why another camel could be, you know, making their bellowing sound. And it's like, oh, you know, so we might figure it out one day and just go, okay, well, this is how we can put it together in a video. But all in all,
AI.
Or AI.
AI.
Yes. I mean, we can tell with our herd.
About this.
I mean, this is the thing for you, Trevor, is that, you know, getting to know your camels better and better. You're like, oh, I know what that means. You know, like these guys here, we know what I'll be lying in bed, and because our camel's paddock are near our bedroom, and I'll hear a camel, and Russell go, oh, who's that? I'm like, oh, that's Coco. Like, I can tell the difference with their sounds. And, you know, I can tell, like, he's probably calling out to somebody, or he wants us to open the gate to.
Usually it's Mia. They're actually in love.
Oh, yeah. They're in love.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
So this is the things with their sounds and mannerism, and they're all different, Trevor. So you've got to, and I know you've signed up for Virtual Camel School, so you'll be working with their different personalities in Virtual Camel School, which will be good. Yeah. Terry asked, do you find Bactrian breed is harder to train than the dromedary camel breed? Thank you for your info and help.
Good question.
That is a great question. We work a lot with dromedaries and not a lot with Bactrians.
No.
But the Bactrians that we have worked with.
Yeah. I suppose. I mean, I'm taking only sort of like City. We met up with City at Camel Safari.
CDMR, yeah.
Yeah, just outside of Las Vegas there. And he gave me a piece of advice, or a little piece of advice, in that the Bactrian camel will play with your head. All right, now I've taken that on board and thought about it.
And this was after we went to Mongolia and trained some 10 Bactrian camels there.
Yeah.
Because we still like, oh, these are an interesting breed. Like the foundations are the same.
Yeah.
But the tweaking
for the breed,
for the personalities in the breed, I guess, well, yeah, like, and then there's been some Bactrians we've worked with that like have been completely
docile,
like a dromedary.
Yeah, totally like a dog. Yeah.
I think it just depends on the breeding. I don't know what it is. Like we're not experts.
We're not experts on the Bactrian.
Bactrian camels.
No, not at all.
And so I think it's the foundations of our trust-based camel training work for the Bactrian camels, but then you got to tweak it a little bit and you got to tweak it more in your head and their way of thinking for particular camels. They're all very different.
I suppose it's sort of like, you know, your different breeds of dogs, for example. I mean, you know, you got different personality traits for different breeds of dogs, and yet they're all dogs. Okay, in training the dogs, you know, you can go through a training program and it will work for every breed, but you've got to also take into consideration, you know, the traits of that particular breed, if you like, and tweak it for that. So I hope that explains how I find it anyway. You found it, I think, the same way.
Yeah, I have. Like I've noticed that, like with all camels, that the foundations for our Camel Connection trust-based camel training work. And then part of that training with the heart, what we call the heart-centered approach, is tweaking it in the sense of, okay, we might do this slightly different with this camel and this personality compared to this camel and this camel. And like Russell said before, some really get it really quickly and others are like, I don't know why you're even near me. And you know, every camel's different, and this is why there is not one way to do things. Like we talk about the foundations, right? Yes, there's one way to do the foundations. We truly believe that, you know, and we go through that through our virtual camel school. There is one way to do the foundations, but then there's what we build on the foundation. Just like building a house, you know, you got your foundations and then you got to build your structure and all that sort of stuff, all depending on what's already down here. You know, what type of personality, what type of camel, you know, what is the owner like? Does the owner get along with the camel? Does the owner actually like the camel, or did they just buy it because it was the only one available? That's the difference.
Yeah, and look, little things can help, and I'm going to give you a little training tip that I don't even think I've even told you, Tara, this one. Yeah, when I first got into camels many years ago, God, how old am I now? God, I must be nearly 1 foot in the grave. Feel it some days, I can tell you. Yeah, a little training tip. I mean, you know, they got these brand new camels, you know, and they were still very fresh. Okay, still did, you know, 3-day training with them, and took them for a couple of days of walking, and that's all I had. So I got them home and had a little yard, and I thought, well, how am I going to get them to, you know, realise that I'm actually okay, that it's not all about asking them to do something. Okay, it's not all about that. It's about being comfortable with who I am in their presence, and vice versa, that they're comfortable with me in their presence. So this is what I used to do. The camels would be eating like these guys, okay, and I used to walk around and pick up sticks and throw them back on the ground, and you know, just shuffle around, and so
be in the presence of.
Like this, you know, just, you know.
Oh, there's a stick.
There's a stick. You know, just bend down and pick it up and look at it. You know, and I'd take no notice whatsoever of the camels. I'd just shuffle around and take no notice of them whatsoever. And I'd do that for an hour. I'd look like an idiot. But in that hour, believe it or not, that was actually work in training the camels. That they were comfortable in my presence. So I'd be just walking around, kicking dirt, you know, not really not making eye contact with the camels at all. No contact at all. In fact, I almost ignored them. And if they shuffled around, then I'd just shuffle around with them. You know, I wasn't chasing them or anything like that. I wasn't particularly trying to get into their space, although I did. And they eventually relaxed into that.
And I would say number one thing is where most camel owners / handlers go wrong with camel training is they get in there and
Try to get into their space too quickly.
And yeah, and just do like, okay, well, we're here to do work, we're here to do the practical.
I'm here to turn on the key to the engine.
Yeah.
All right, and that's sometimes you got to switch that away, put that away. All right,
hide the key.
Hide the key.
Put it in the freezer.
Hide the key from the kids. But yeah, sometimes you got to switch that away and realize that, you know, it is, if you're creating a bond with someone, then it's not all about work. It's like our relationship, you know. It's not all about doing stuff together all the time. It could be just simply, oh, I'm in the kitchen, you know, cooking up some toast, a Vegemite and toast, something like that, and just walks past, right? And I don't have to say anything to her. I don't have to tell her to do anything, and she doesn't have to tell me to do anything. And, you know, we've got this bond and relationship. We can be in space and feel comfortable about that.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's something that you want with
and
your
that's
camel.
Exactly what we teach in virtual camel school, and which is starting tomorrow. Actually, if you're in Australia, it starts tomorrow. If you're in the States, it starts the 23rd in the evening. 23rd? No, 24th in the evening. You know, it's like we will teach you the foundations of how to get camels to accept you, because this is the thing, is they need to be able to accept you. Hello. So yeah, that's the most important thing, is getting that acceptance.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that, your foundations, just like building a house, are going to be really, really unstable. And that's why I think, particularly when people have like a baby camel, they're so cute and they want a lot of attention and they're just like in your face, and then they get to like 3 or 4 and they like start getting into this rebellious teenage years, and the camel owners will contact us going, oh, we had such this beautiful relationship, blah blah blah, and now it's starting to bite, and now they're starting to, you know, bite or whatever. So this is the difference. Right. Is that this is why it's so important to set up the foundations in whatever age they are. I mean, we usually work with camels above 1 year, but you can start with younger camels as well. It just depends on the circumstance that you're in. Like, I mean, we're in a luxurious situation here where, you know, if we've got baby camels, we won't even touch them for the first year. Like, we'll just let them be with mum, sort of thing. But I know in the States it's very different, where you get a lot of bottle raised babies and all that sort of stuff. So it really depends on the circumstances and all that sort of stuff.
Absolutely.
If you've got any more final questions about camel training, and if you'd like us to answer any, please do let us know, because we're going to wrap this up very soon. So while we're waiting for your final questions, we will tell you again that virtual camel school enrollments are still open, but only until midnight tonight Australian time, or I think it's 9 AM Eastern time in the United States.
Yeah.
I think
we're only doing one a year, aren't we? A virtual school.
Yeah, this year only once a year. This is all we can fit in, because we've got so much other stuff going on. And it's such a small investment for all the value that you get. Once you're in for life. So every virtual camel school we do from there on, you're just going to get access to all those things as well.
And they're also attached to the Facebook page too, then?
Yeah, we've got a Facebook support page. So if you are active on Facebook, that's going to be available too. But technology is an amazing thing. I mean, like, you know, you can have forums on your website now and all sorts of amazing things.
I never dreamt that we'd be doing this, I can tell you.
Really?
No,
I did as soon as you said it.
Not when we started. I had no idea that the technology was here for it. I mean, you know, Maxwell Smart with his shoe phone, you know, that was just fantasy to me. But here it is, you know, we don't have a shoe phone. We're
iPhones.
Yeah.
I get it, iPhones.
iPhones, all right, iPhone.
So if you've got any final questions, please post them below. Like we said, yes, Virtual Camel School, the enrollments are closing soon, like really soon. Check out our website. If you go to camelconnection.com, you'll see a big banner. You can't miss it, and you'll see the countdown timer. So yeah, they'll give you an indication how long you got to decide about this. And one question we got in email actually last night was, is would camel school suit me if I've got a really large herd of camels to train? For riding, I think it was. For riding.
Yes.
Yeah, and the answer is definitely.
Yes.
If you want to train camels for riding, for trekking or whatever purposes, definitely virtual camel school. There's nothing you can lose really. I mean,
I think that question was also for, like, in the end for riding, but that was for riding for commercial purposes.
yes.
And like the safety protocols and that sort of stuff, it's just critical. I can't express that enough. You've got to have your procedures in place, and you've got to have the background of your safety procedures that you've trained the camels with, and you're being trained with as well, when working commercially. It is critical. And look, there's a million topics attached to that, and but yeah, this is part of why we've also set this up as well, is to show this is what we've done. It's everything we possibly could do to ensure that not only is the camel as safe as possible,
And that's where I really think
as possible,
the importance of the heart-centered approach with. Like, if I didn't have a heart-centered approach with these guys and we didn't do the Camel Connection trust-based camel training, I think I'd be shitting myself all of the time when we operated them professionally, because I didn't understand them. I didn't know when they were going to do something or whatever. Like, this is the thing with the Camel Connection training that we teach, is we learn to read the camel, that particular camel, and you get better and better as more camels you work with. So if you've only got one camel and you're going to get two or whatever, you're going to get better and better and better.
Absolutely.
As you work.
So it's not only that, but also the safety of the operator. Okay, and you think down the track, if you're thinking about doing a commercial operation, okay, if you've got staff, right, and they've been trained in the safest, with all the safety protocols that we teach, for example, and things that you might come up with as well. All right, but then you've done everything you can from a commercial point of view for your protection. It's sort of like, if it's not on, it's not on. Do you remember that, Ed? No, don't worry about it.
No, I don't remember that.
No, but so yeah, safety. Safety
Okay,
is a big one. A big animal.
We got a question from Terry again.
Okay, Terry.
What do you use for a bridle or headgear to start training camels? Ones I've seen look like the bronze or a halter that a horse uses.
Okay, well, that's simple.
Yeah, it is more simple than what you think. Like,
Yeah.
camel gear is really quite simple, except for camel saddles. It's just a
So what we
whole
use
other
is the rope halters that you buy from Horseland or something like that. That's all we buy. And, if we've got those halters on for an extended period of time, we actually put what we call a nose guard onto the halter. It's a piece of leather with wool, and, it's very nice and soft and everything. And you can actually keep that halter on on the camel for months if you're tracking with those nose guards. But the rope holders, like any halter, if it's left on for too long, then it will cut into the nose and, create issues there.
Yeah. And we use it for better management, in the sense that the camels can feel more with just the rope halter rather than the flat ones. Like, we maybe once or twice have used the flat ones many years ago, like the flat nylon ones. But with the rope halters, they can feel more of what's going on and pressure release. But it's not just the halter that's the most important part. You can actually ditch the halter altogether and just have one piece of rope that will work amazingly well. And that's exactly what we're teaching our virtual camel schools: how to work with the equipment that you've got, or that you don't have, or maybe you've got limited equipment, but what actually works in the sense of how the camel responds to the equipment that you're using, because they respond in different ways. Like, they're big animals, so what's going to work? Is it just a halter, or is it going to be a rope around the neck, or is it going to be this and that and the other? And we don't have time to talk about all that today, but we'll definitely
look, there are methods where you're training a camel to, say, for example, do something, right? Whatever it is.
Do something.
By voice command. okay, and that's well and good. You know, I think they work. Obviously, they work, but all it takes is one outside influence. Um, did you like that? Yeah. One outside influence to come into your surroundings that the camel attention's taken away by, and things can happen. So even though we're saying, you know, like we need that heart-centered yeah, relationship with the camel, that's definitely essential. Okay, but at the same time, you've got to be able to say, okay, this animal is under control, and especially if you're going into the public. Okay.
Because an animal will always be an animal.
Mm.
They've always got their natural instincts. They're always gonna do something that's unpredictable. Like, you know, we can read these guys after, you know, I've been with these guys 6 years, but you've been with them for like, I don't know,
Oh, 18,
a lot longer.
16, 18 years,
You know, only now am I really starting to understand how they think and when to, and they're a lot more mature to it. So like that maturity has a lot to do with unpredictability. But when I first met you with these camels, I'm like, how does he even know what this camel's going to do? Like, he just, you know, having spent that time with, which he built on the foundations that we've been talking about, that made all the difference. I truly believe that. Yeah.
Sometimes it's just looking at the camel and you go, oh yeah, they're about to go silly.
Yeah.
And don't forget that the camel's mental maturity, even at this age, is of about an 8-year-old child.
Yeah.
So you think of your own kids.
So
or
these guys are
neighbours'
like
kids,
20, right? 20 years old,
something
but
like
they've
that,
reached that maturity of
of
an
an
8-year-old
8-year-old, yeah,
as a
mentally.
fully grown camel.
Yeah. So you think of your kids,
And
your
that's the
neighbours' kids or something, 8-year-olds. What are they like? There you go.
And this is the reason why it's so important to understand how a camel thinks. And this is why we're doing virtual camel school, is because the most important, you could put all the logical and the how-to training and how to get them to sit to the side. But if you understand how a camel thinks, understands its psychology, understand what age level they're at in respect to, like, it's like dog to human age, but camel to human age, you'll start to understand so much more about your camel, and you'll be more compassionate, more forgiving, you'll be more patient. Like, these are the things
And they
that
will
come with
be
it.
of you too.
Yeah.
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 It's a two-way street.
So we'll finish up with one more question
go
from
for it.
Najir.
Hi, Najir.
She's having trouble getting little Moa. She got Moa from us, by the way. This little camel, she's cute as. Into the paddock in the round yard. So the round yard's in the paddock. No problem approaching her in the paddock, as she will totally throw herself around once I grab the rope. Any ideas on how to settle in the paddock?
What's she scared of, Najir? What's the camel scared of?
Well, yeah, I think it's like that answer is kind of like, it's an age thing.
Yeah.
Like, just think of some of the camels we've had, and you'll go
silly
and grab
ones,
the
yeah.
rope, and they're like, oh my God, she's actually going to do something with me.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Well,
like,
I'll give you an example of Coco. Now, he's at the back now.
oh,
Okay.
Coco.
And all the others, I can walk up to the others after not having seen them for 6 months and go to the paddock out at the cattle station where we keep them, and walk up to them with their ropes and put them halters on. Just so head goes in the halter and I do it up, you know. But Coco likes to play this little game.
He likes to walk away.
He
And
likes
again,
to walk away
and
and
again.
I'll go and again and again. So I play on his mind, and I just say to the others, okay, right, we'll leave him.
Yeah.
Let's go. And we all start walking off to base camp.
So he
It might
starts
be
to
a
get
kilometre
worried.
or so away. And he's, oh, hang on, I'm missing out. And he'll come and I'll stop and I'll go up to him and he'll put his head in. He said, yeah, okay, I'll come. So even at this age, you know, of 20 odd or whatever he is, you know, he's still thinking of that, you know, I'm going to play a game. I'm an 8-year-old, you know, camel. Getting him into your yard, so get back to your question. Okay, did go off track. I remember a story once of an industrialist, a multi-millionaire industrialist. He used to catch wildlife, and this particular time he was catching a tiger or something. And someone asked him the question, how do you catch a tiger? This was in a seminar. And he says, well, pretty simple really. You know, like I'll go ahead and get a lump of meat and I'll put it out in the paddock and leave it there. And the tiger will come in, sniff around, you know, sort of know what's going on, making sure that nothing's a problem. that there's nothing going to catch him, you know, there's nothing to be scared of, and he'll come in and grab the meat. So he'll do that, and he said, I'll do that for 21 days. Now, I'm not saying do this for 21 days, but he said, you know, the principle's here. Then next he'll put a post in the ground and the lump of meat and repeat the process. And then another post and a panel, and then another post and a panel, and then eventually he's got a yard, but with a trap yard, trap gates. And so, yeah, slow process, but that tiger or lion or whatever it was captured without stress, without anything like that. So one way of actually dealing with a camel like that is, where do you feed them? Where do you put their treat of a bale of lucerne? Is it outside the yard or inside the yard? You know, where's their water trough? Is it inside the yard or outside the yard? Okay. You know, so start thinking about how the camel thinks. Oh, I need water. I could go into the yard and go out, and there's nothing to fear. All right, so that's one way of getting them used to those sorts of things.
Yep. But I think also the jumping around is just an age thing. Like,
oh, yeah.
God, you know, sometimes our older camels still do it when they can really be bothered. But, you know, like, it's an age thing. And she could be excited. She could be scared. She could be unsure. She could be just a jumper. Like, I want to jump around because I'm young enough to do so. Like, It really just depends on what you believe your camel's personality is.
And this is where, where your training comes in.
Yeah, Joe.
Your training comes in, where what's your reaction to all this jumping around?
Yeah, that's the biggest tip.
What's your reaction? Okay, are you jumping around with them, or let the camel jump around? Okay, let it, until it calms down. All right, remember your teachers at school. Now,
how many times did they have to tell you?
Best teachers that you could have ever experienced. And kids would be carrying on a real treat, and they'd just be standing there and waiting for silence. And just looking.
She fears getting caught in the paddock, yeah. So that's just an unusual thing for her.
Yeah.
Like, it's just something that's going to need work and time and patience, because she's so
right.
young still, and you've only had her for a short amount of time.
Gentle, quiet persistence will always win the day. And this is something that you need to go through.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because it does build better relationships.
It happened to all of us. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us here on Virtual Camel School. Remember, be patient and kind with your animals. Like, that they have their own way of thinking. They don't think like you. They think completely different. So if you're not understanding something about them, then that's okay, because they're a completely different species. If you would like to get more live videos like this and dive really deep into the camel psychology, how they think, and building on those foundations we've talked about in this video, do consider signing up for our Virtual Camel School, which enrollments are closing at midnight tonight in Australia, or 9 a.m. Eastern time in the United States. It will be a really, we've already got amazing members in there, so we've got an amazing community happening. Thank you for those that have signed up. We can't wait to be working with you. The Virtual Camel School literally starts on Monday or Sunday if you're in the States. So that's really soon, to get all that camel information that you really want to make your camel journey amazing.
Last point, just to remember this. Camels love routine. All right? And if you've got a systemized structure of your training program for the camel, and it's routine, they're going to catch on to that real fast, okay? And so will you. All right? So just remember that. Camels love routine.
They do.
Okay? Things that are out of the ordinary, that's where they get scared, and the lions and tigers are attacking from behind. All right? So yeah, what we've done is systemized everything so that it is routine, and the camels catch on very nicely. In our situation, if I've got a camel, or we've got a camel that we're training up and we're taking it out into the desert, along with a string of camels, we want it to be understanding of what I'm requesting of it, and what we're requesting. I want the camel to understand that.
That's the biggest thing.
And so yeah, that's the reason why we do what we do.
Great. Okay, guys, go and check out Virtual Camel School over at our website, camelconnection.com. You can't miss the big shiny banner, and see if this is for you. If you've got any questions, also we have a live chat over on our website. You can ask us questions there, or you can obviously message us here on Facebook platform. Obviously emails like the old school way, snail mail. So thanks for tuning in, guys. We're really glad you made it and asked some really great questions.
Absolutely.
And we look forward to doing more of these soon in Virtual Camel School.
Totally. All right, guys.
All
Take care.
right, bye.
See ya.
I'll stop this one and